Hi, kindergarten friends. Let's talk math. Our second lesson for today is Chapter 8, Lesson 4. So we have talked about height and we've talked about length, and now we are going to learn about weight, comparing weight. How much something weighs. Is something heavier or is something lighter? So let's talk about weight right now. So let's look at this. This might not be, oh, no problem of the day. We'll switch that. Okay, so talking about weight. How can you compare the weight of two objects? Okay, so this is a scale right here in the middle, and you may have used one of those scales before. If you put things into one side of this balance scale, if you put things into that one side, it gets heavier. Now, if it's balanced, that means that what's inside the scale is the same on both sides. Now, if there was more on this side, then it would tip that side down. But if you had the same amount, it would be even. All right, so let's talk about that. Oops, one more. I'm going to change this. I'm going to clear that. Okay, now compare the pumpkin and the acorn. The pumpkin and the acorn. Circle the object that is lighter. Which object do you think is lighter? Do you think a pumpkin is lighter or an acorn, a type of a nut? Okay, so I think the acorn is lighter, so I'm going to circle it. Underline the object that is heavier. So if the acorn is lighter, then the pumpkin would be the heavier object. So I'm going to underline that. Okay, so I circled the object that was lighter and I underlined the object that was heavier. Oops, keep forgetting to do that. Okay, now let's see. So here, let's go through these and we are going to circle the objects that are heavier than you. So you, look at yourself, think about your body. Which one of these objects is going to be heavier than you? Well, let's look at the first object, an airplane. I definitely think an airplane is heavier than me. Yes. What about a yo-yo? I hold it in my hand, I play with it. Do you think it's heavier than you? No. What about a piano? Like in Mrs. Ostrander's room. If somebody picked you up and then tried to pick up the piano, which would be harder? I bet it would be harder to pick up the piano. The piano is definitely heavier than you. What about a horse? I'm imagining if I picked up you and gave you a piggyback ride, and then I picked up a horse and tried to give it a piggyback ride, do you think I could do that? Yeah, I don't think so either. I think a horse is heavier than you. What about a crab? I've held a crab in my hand before. Do you think a crab is heavier than you? No, I don't either. What about a little bird? Do you think you're heavier or a little bird? Yeah, I think you are. Well, what about a car? We ride around in cars all the time. Do you think that a car is heavier than you? I agree. I think a car is heavier too. Okay, now place an X on the objects that are lighter than you. Well, if we decided that these were heavier, then the opposite of heavier is lighter. A yo-yo is lighter than you. A crab is lighter than you. And a bird is lighter than you. Nice job. All right, so let's go on to the next page. Explore and explain. So this is what's on the front of your packet. Let's look at the directions. Find two different objects in the room. Okay, this says classroom, but your classroom is your house now. So, at least for the time being, find two different objects in the room. So you are going to find two different objects. And then when you find those objects, you are going to tell which object is heavy and which one is light. Then you are going to draw a picture of each object on this teeter-totter to show which object is heavy and which is light. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is remember that that teeter-totter is like, I'm going to go back here and show you this. clear this. That teeter-totter is like this balance scale. Remember how we talked about the balance scale and how if something is heavier, it makes the scale go down on that side? Okay, so now when we go back to explore and explain, this teeter-totter is like a balance scale. So if something is heavier, it makes it go down on one side, right? So we are going to draw the two things that you found and show the heavier one on the side that is pointing down. Okay, right next to me I have a glass. And I'm sitting on a chair. Okay, so in my house, I'm choosing the chair and the glass. Now, which is heavier, the chair or the glass? Well, what do you think? Yeah, I agree. The chair is heavier than the glass. So I'm going to put the chair on that side, and then I'm going to put the glass on this side. Okay, so now what else does it say? Okay, yep, draw a picture of each object on the teeter-totter to show which object is heavy and which is light. So you can do that with two things in your house. All right, then we'll go on to the next part of our problem. See and show. Now on the see and show page, they are showing you the balance scale, and they're showing you two different things. Compare the objects, which is heavier and which is lighter. You are going to trace the line from each object to the place on the balance scale that will show its weight. Now remember, if the balance scale is tipping down, that's the heavier side. If it is tipping up, that's the lighter side. So now over here, heavier. Which of these things is heavier, the shoe or the pencil? Yep, I agree. The shoe is heavier, so it goes on the side that is pointing down. So that means that the pencil is lighter, so it goes on the side that is pointing up. Heavier, lighter. All right, now let's go on to the next page. On my own. So now on this page, there's no dotted lines. You're going to look at the scale. You can even show what you can draw with the arrow if it helps you to remember. The side that's down is heavier. The side that is pointing up is lighter. So if you look at this box that you can carry things around in and this teeny tiny paper clip, which one of those things do you think is lighter? Which doesn't weigh as much? Yeah, I think it's the paper clip. And which of those is heavier? Is the box. So that's what you do on the On My Own page. Okay, pretty simple there. All right, now the last thing that we do is the very back page. So when you turn it over, you'll see the problem solving page, kind of like what we did before when we looked at the pictures and we determined which of the things were heavy and which were light. So the directions for the back say draw an X on items that are too heavy to lift. It would be too heavy to lift. Circle the items that are light enough to carry. So I'm going to do an example of just two of them. One thing that is too heavy to lift is a real life elephant. One thing that I could lift and carry around with me easily is a pencil. So you see what to do there? X out the things that are too heavy to lift. Circle the things that you could lift up and carry around with you easily. All right. Have fun and work hard. Bye.